What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review this as an EP release, basically the EP by Digital Underground from 1991. And this came out after Sex Packets from them, which was their debut album back in 1990. And really, I found out about Digital Underground through their affiliation with Tupac, and Tupac kind of got his early stages steps back with Digital Underground in 1991. But it didn't take Tupac very long to manifest from Digital Underground, just because by the end of 1991 he dropped his debut album Tupacalypse Now, which just really happened to be the thing there. But Tupac was on two projects by Digital Underground, this EP here, and he was also on Digital Underground's second album in the fall of 1991. But the thing about Digital Underground, they had some hits like the Humpty Dance and Do What You Like and some of those type ones. Yeah, just they kind of had like some party type tunes, but to tell the truth here, I'm kind of gun shy about messing with boom bap and like the golden age of hip hop for the most part, minus like the Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, Ice Cube, and NWA type stuff, just because the production on like boom bap and golden age of hip hop is always kind of very poor and stark and minimalist and turntable type stuff that I'm not really too big a fan of. And even Tupac's earlier albums like Strictly for My Niggas and Tupacalypse Now were kind of stark in production. I mean, apart from songs like Brenda's Got a Baby and maybe I Get Around and some of those, there's just not an overabundance of songs that from Tupac's early 90s days before Thug Life Volume 1 I really had too much of an affinity for. But I do feel like Digital Underground is at least feel like Digital Underground is one I've tested the waters with now and safely feel like they've got some hits enough to be able to portray saying that I mess with some of these folks quite a bit. So I just would have to say I like at least half of the 6 songs on this 6 song EP. And I just would have to say that it does kind of overall have some quality on here. It's just interesting to kind of get it and see another valve of West Coast hip hop before the widespread appeal of like Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style and just overall other stuff like that from the 90s that kind of had that particular spin. So this is kind of some interesting stuff. This is before like G-Funk started taking over, and it's just kind of interesting to kind of get that. But there was at least one single, and that was the song Same Song, which is the first appearance with Tupac on like commercial marketing and like stores and stuff. So I just would have to say I really like this song. I would have to say about Same Song. Same Song feels like a song you'd listen to where there'd be like Casio machines and jukeboxes back in the early 90s. This is a place where there'd kind of be beer mugs, kind of saloon like, and it almost kind of reminds me of like a steampunk song in a lot of ways. It's something in that sort of valve. This kind of the nice kind of mellow, kind of organ pianos type playing and that type stuff. Just really kind of lackadaisical and just mellow and has like a different pitch towards it and just kind of like a more kind of Western flick kind of party type feel in a lot of ways. It's just odd to kind of get that in the same song. When they say same song, that keeps being said in like the song over and over, it just kind of has that pitch of that's about as close as like the production kind of gets, but it just kind of has like some very mellow organs on here, and Tupac does a good job on here. I kind of feel like it was a little bit lengthy a song being over 6 minutes, but I still tolerate it enough to say that it is a hit. I do appreciate the song enough to say that this is a pretty solid one. So it's just definitely kind of quality here. This really kind of feels like a bar type song and a pub type song for just clinking beer mugs and kind of getting drunk at like a saloon or some sort of place where there'd be like some kind of swashbuckling and that type stuff as far as that kind of actively goes. I just would have to say it's a pretty nice mellow one for that sort of sense. But to talk about, there were 3 songs I'm going to go ahead and talk about the songs out of 6 I recommend to you. So out of 6 songs, there were 3 songs I recommend, and those 3 songs were Same Song with Tupac, Packet Man Remix, Worth the Packet Remix. Packet Man Worth the Packet Remix is what it's called, and then Tie the Knot. So to talk about these, like Tie the Knot is kind of like a lounge kind of congregating and fraternizing type tune for being at weddings and that type of stuff, flirting with some ladies, just kind of congregating, getting dapped, that sort of thing. But it's just kind of an ancient kind of tune. It's just interesting that they actually played the bridal chorus on here from weddings and that type of stuff. It's just kind of an odd one, but I do feel like it's necessary to kind of have some rap songs at weddings and that type of stuff just to kind of be able to say that sort of context. But I kind of feel like the topic matter on this album is kind of trite. Like, minus Same Song, there's just not an overabundance of like necessarily consistent kind of moments. Like, there's not really so much of like stunting kind of songs, and just overall like Nothing This Funky was just too lengthy a song. And we'll get to some of these complaints, but it's just kind of overall that I feel like minus it needed kind of like something that's like a dance club song, and like a they needed like another song like the Humpty Dance or some sort of stuff that could actually be like a dance bop and some overall kind of crazy moments, because this is just kind of a mellow album. But like both Same Song and Tie the Knot just kind of have like very swashbuckling kind of mellow and just kind of pub and beer mug kind of energy. But Packet Man Remix is just about selling sex packets, which is kind of the concept of what the first album was called, or that album was called Sex Packets, that one from 1990. But it's just basically some cat buying sex packets from like a dealer and that type stuff. And it's just kind of an interesting thing. But the thing about it, the thing that makes this song interesting is just the fact that it has like a real nice saxophone and jazz rap kind of feel towards it. Where I listened to the original Packet Man off of I listened to the original Packet Man on Sex Packets from 1990 by Digital Underground, and that beat just simply does not compare. The original Packet Man beat on Sex Packets from 1990 by Digital Underground just does not compare to the one on this project. This one just has so much more of a beautiful kind of saxophone and jazz rap kind of feel towards it, and it just really feels like a brisk walk through the city and just kind of city traverse and just appreciating the sights, where whether you're in New York or California, San Francisco, someplace like that. It's kind of having those after effects as far as that's kind of concerned. I would have liked a song like this that just kind of had a little bit more ambient lyrics that are not just about like buying sex packets or something like that, but just kind of is some sort of concept of just appreciating the sights in the city. This is the sort of stuff that a lot of East Coast kind of boom bap rappers kind of do, where they have these kind of tunes, but it's just kind of it's one of those moments where you like the song, but the lyrics kind of detract from the overall experience. I mean, it's a decent bop for what it is, but I kind of would have liked just like a tune just about dancing and seeing some women shake their ass and that type stuff, and twerking, and some of those type moments of twerking happened back in 1991. But yeah, just to kind of say, for the most part, the topic matter on this album is ancient. I just have to say, like, the fact that there's the bridal chorus on one of these songs, sex packets on another. There's a song where there's just arguing on the funk, which is just arguments over some beat that wasn't that good. Nothing This Funky was a 9.5 minute beat that was just kind of uninteresting and not worth the time. And the Way We Swing remix did not really make you want to swing, just kind of with its uninteresting production. So that's just kind of the concept. But I do like Same Song, despite the fact that it's kind of lengthy. Tupac does a great job on here, and the rest of Digital Underground do also. But this is kind of a real swashbuckling and kind of mellow, kind of pub type song. Tie the Knot is kind of like a lounge, kind of fraternizing kind of song. And Packet Man is just kind of a city traverse type song. So that's what I recommend as far as that's kind of concerned, as far as the complaints of it kind of go. But I'm going to give this EP me liking 3 songs out of 6. I'm going to go ahead and give this EP like a 6 out of 10. I feel like at least me liking these, the fact that Arguing on the Funk is not even a song, it's just kind of arguments and just kind of almost like a skit almost. I kind of feel like a 6 out of 10 is pretty solid. I mean, I was surprised that I was surprised that I gave this project the score that I did, because I almost didn't. Like, originally, as I first listened to this, I thought that I was only going to like Same Song and give it like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. But there is some bops on here, despite the fact that I'm not completely in wholesome congruence with like the lyrics and the topic matter on here. I do at least feel like the productions and the elements of what they're trying to do at least have some visuals that make you want to appreciate the project. It's just kind of the fact that the lyrics, they're just not adding up to like the overall experience. And I feel like it's kind of like that just because of the fact that it's from 1991 and it's just different times. But I think they just need to loosen up a little bit more and kind of have the lyrics are good and like the songs that they are on, but it's just kind of the fact that the topic matter is just kind of differential from the time period from what happened. I think they needed more songs like the Humpty Dance, more songs like that, more kind of drinking songs, beer songs, nice sound system kind of songs, smoking songs, some of that type of stuff that could have really showcased some things. But for what it is, just kind of odd placement as far as the lyrics kind of go, because the lyrics are good, the topics are good on the songs, but it's just kind of the concept that I feel like maybe some of the topics that could have been used could have been more substandard for what could have happened, like a car song, a smoking song, a dance song, something like that. It just is kind of where it's just kind of bewildering and out of like the ordinary kind of topics on here that just kind of make it for like a different placement, which is just different value overall as far as like the normal layout to how you would listen to music and such. So that's just kind of the thing. But I give it a 6 out of 10. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give like a 4 out of 10 because minus Same Song and Tie the Knot, there's just not an overabundance of social kind of stepping out moments, and the overall kind of like impact of like the other songs is just poor. And that just really happens to kind of be the thing. It's just not really like party songs. Some of the songs are too long. So there's kind of some odd topics and productions on here that just make it kind of uninteresting. And plus the overall stark productions and boom bap kind of sound are just not convincing, minus like the songs that actually have some degree of like funk or at least some degree of like swashbuckling and kind of mellow, kind of steampunk type vibes about it that just kind of give it that sort of atmosphere. But minus like these kind of mellow, kind of drunken, kind of bar type songs from like a saloon from like the early 90s, it just doesn't have very much pitch as far as that kind of goes. But I just would have to say I do at least recommend Packet Man also as far as that kind of breezy, kind of sophisticated jazz rap type feel, especially in like a city traverse. But that's about it. I just would have to say, but it's enough of an impact to be able to say that this is a worthwhile project, but you just may be left hungry if you're kind of wishing for something that had a little bit more of like a dance to and a little bit something more central to kind of get crunk to and that type of stuff. It's just not an overall kind of weekend success, I would have to say. But for social, in terms of the future, like Digital Underground has dried up, Shock G is deceased, Tupac is deceased, stuff like that. But there's just kind of the concept of being able to say that this is a worthwhile kind of project to look over. And I just would have to say I did enjoy it, but it was just kind of in a differential and bewildering kind of aspect as far as trying to get that. So it's just kind of an odd thing. These kind of like, yeah, once again, I have to say swashbuckling kind of tunes as far as some of this kind of goes. It's just interesting, these kind of drunken, kind of pub kind of tunes as far as that kind of goes. But I do like some of this, and it is kind of got some good texts and context as far as that kind of goes.